we are ready to go anytime you're ready, Connie. Take it away.
Okay, so Commissioner Henry, would you like to start the meeting? You're muted right now.
Muted, Clyde. Oh. Okay, do it again. Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. The meeting's called to order. The next commission monthly business meeting will be 12 p.m. noon, Thursday, August 6th, 2020. It will be a virtual hearing via WebEx. Next commission hearing will be 4 p.m. Thursday, August 20, 2020. Hearing via WebEx. Next item on the agenda is to swear in the staff. I believe we have 2 staff here this evening. Connie, you want to start?
Connie?
Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do. Connie Torbeck, Assistant Preservation Officer with the City of Columbus.
Okay.
I think I'll be the only one speaking. Who?
Thank you. Next we'll have the introduction of the commissioners. I will call the names and just say present or attending. Jackie Barton.
Present.
Aaron Prosser.
Present.
Stuart Givney.
Stuart won't be attending today.
Okay. Joe McCabe.
Present.
And myself, Clyde Henry, will be acting as chair. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for Thursday, May or
June 18th.
Should be
June
June
18th.
18th. June 18th, 2020. Do I hear a motion? Who was that? Say your name.
That was Aaron.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Jackie Barton, second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? If not, we'll call the vote. We'll start with
Yes.
Aaron. And I also vote, Clyde Henry, myself, I vote also. Next, we move to public forum. Are there any items in public forum? If not, we'll move to the application.
Could you get the staff approvals, please? Staff approvals?
Oh, I'm sorry. I read over it. Sorry. Okay. Next item on the agenda are the staff approvals. Do I have a motion to approve the staff approvals?
Jackie Barton, so moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second for the approval of the staff approvals. Is there any discussion?
Wait, I have discussion. So in the staff approval link, hang on a second. Oh, maybe not. Never mind. I have myself confused on my own computer. Ignore me.
Okay. Any other questions? Concerns? Okay. Let's start with Jackie this time.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
And myself, Clyde. Yes. I don't believe we have any items on the forum, so we will move to the applications for certifications of appropriateness. And the first item on the agenda is 659/661 South Champion Avenue. And on the agenda before, Connie, would you like to present this?
Sure, and we do have an applicant here.
Okay.
So this is for installation of new windows, removal of original aluminum jalousie and Chicago style windows on the circa 1964 duplex, and install new windows per the submitted product cut sheets, and also to restore one of the brick planters that had previously been removed, and that will match the existing one. And so the applicant has been provided with the applicable standards, guidelines, and National Park Service Preservation Section number 22, which we're also providing. Intends to speak with a window repair professional prior to this hearing, if he was able to do that. So applicable guidelines would be that to preserve windows that help define a building's historic character, repair and preserve a structure's original windows, consider replacing windows only as the last resort. Also, standards would be distinguishing characteristics of the property shall not be destroyed. Deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced. In the event replacement is necessary, the new material shall match the material being replaced. We've talked about this a little bit. This is kind of a new area that we're moving into with this era of 1950s, 1960s buildings, maybe even 1970s starting to be contributing buildings, and the different materials that they have. Columbus Register guidelines were published in 1997 when buildings from the 1950s and 60s were not considered historically contributing. However, the same guidelines and standards do apply to historic fabric and architectural features on buildings of any era as they become contributing with the passage of time. So depending on the discussion that ensues here, the recommendation may be to continue the application to investigate repair and weatherizing options, or if the commission thinks appropriate, replacement with a design to match existing fenestration, including the divisions of glass, the muntins, and etc.
Thank you. And I see Jeff Steely's here tonight, representing the applicant. Would you like to add to that?
No, I have not had an opportunity. Connie did give me a contact for a window restoration company. I haven't heard back from them. I was hoping to have met them to kind of get their input on what restoration would be possible for the windows from their perspective. Because I'm open to restoring the windows if that is the path that the commission would like to go in. But I don't know. I haven't had a chance to meet with somebody to get more details on that at the moment. So,
okay, and just to, if I'll go ahead and because I didn't mention that, we don't recommend certain companies or contractors for applicants to work with. But in this particular case, I wanted to educate myself a little bit, and so I contacted Blind Eye Restoration. And we had a good discussion about this and their experience with wood windows as well as, we missed swearing in the applicant there too, but finish this.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
I'll
I was about to
retroactively
say
do it.
something,
Sorry.
but thank you.
And so we talked about their experience with steel windows and how that would be similar. And so I provided that contact information to Mr. Steele, and as he said, he was going to try to talk to her about the process of possibly repairing and weatherization things, maybe like interior storms and that sort of thing. So That's background.
Okay. I'm going to go back to where you in that. Do you sort of to tell the truth and that you have told the truth in everything that you've testified to tonight before the commission? Say I do and then state your name for the record. Sorry.
I do. Jeff Steele, owner of 659-661 South Campus.
We're having some
Okay.
trouble understanding you a little bit, fading out a little.
Me?
Yes.
No, sorry. I don't know what to do with that.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Where do we go on this? I mean, it's sounding to me like this should probably be a continuance to the next meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would feel more comfortable getting details on what restoration looks like before making a decision on this, but whatever you
Okay.
feel comfortable with.
Does any of the commissioners want to move to continue this?
This is Jackie. I'd be happy to make a move to continue.
Okay.
So number, here we go. Regarding I'm sorry, did Jamie tell us not to use the HR numbers in our motions? Is that right, Connie?
You can. That was just a time thing. That's all.
I'm happy not to use them if it's not necessary. So regarding 659 and 661 South Champion Avenue, motion to continue to the next meeting.
Is there a second on that?
Could we discuss the brick planters out front?
Oh, yeah, we can actually.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Actually, so regarding 659 and 661 South Champion Avenue, motion to continue the matter of replacement of the windows and installation of new windows.
Second.
Okay, we can still come back and discuss the planters. Okay. Well, I guess I have to call a vote. All those in favor of the motion to continue, let's start with Aaron. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And Clyde says yes also. Okay, so we can now discuss the issue of the planters, or we can do that as a separate motion. In my understanding, you plan to repair the planters, is that correct?
Correct, and actually, upon further investigation, the one on the right will need to be rebuilt anyway. So the existing planter has multiple structural cracks to it, so we would be dismantling that and rebuilding both of them to match the dimensions of that existing one. They will make the effort to use, as one of you suggested last time, bricks from the back to make sure that they match perfectly. But the mason that I spoke with also said that he would expect to be able to find a new brick that matches this very closely as well.
Good. There's any other questions?
And they would include the concrete top as well.
Yes, it would include a new concrete top on both sides.
Okay.
I do believe, Clyde, that we would probably pass motion with final submission of mortar samples and or mortar specifications and the brick chosen to be submitted to staff for final approval.
Sounds excellent. Was that a motion?
Sure, and we probably, because we've already had an A, this would probably, technically the continuance would be unresolved, so this would be I guess this would be a B case. So breaking this apart into multiple motions, I would move that in the applicant's proposal to restore the planters at 659 to 661 South Champion, as proposed by the applicant, we approve the restoration and repairs needed for the planter, subject to the applicant providing mortar specifications and color matching of both mortar and brick to staff for final approval.
Thank you. Is there a second on that?
This is Aaron Prosser. I'll second.
Great. Any further discussion on this? We will start with the vote. Let's start with Joe.
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
and Clyde also votes yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much for the windows at our future meeting.
Alrighty, have a good one.
Clyde, I'm going to
Okay.
interject here real quick. I'm sorry, Clyde. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to interject here real quick. I don't see Connie on the call anymore. Did we lose Connie?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Just making sure. I don't see on the, maybe there's just too many attendees. Okay, I just want to make sure you're still there. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't see her either.
I can see me.
I think she's over on the listing. If you,
Yeah,
Posting
that's
in
where
the
I'm at.
attendance
Yeah,
sheet.
I still don't. I
Oh,
don't.
you know what? I think my computer has frozen.
Yeah, that's maybe it. It's all good as long as you're able to hear everything, Connie. I just want to make sure
Well.
you were here for all this. That's all. And I'm glad you can see yourself as well.
I just probably am not going to be able to see the drawings and so forth.
for checking on that. Next item on the agenda, item 2, 1251 Brighton Road. To take us through that submission.
Okay, so this is to modify a previous approval. I'll say, the conversion of a window to a door opening and installation of an exterior stairway was previously approved. The doorway is no longer required for egress, and an exterior stairway is no longer wanted. The brick and stone removed to enlarge the opening were not retained. They are requesting to retain the new door opening and convert a second-story rear elevation landing that had already been built as part of the previously approved stairway, and put a metal railing around that, and have that for just a small balcony for residents. So the applicable standards would be actually do not eliminate window openings, fill in or alter them to accommodate larger or smaller window replacements or door replacements. That actually has already been done. So would recommend returning the door opening to the original window opening if it can be done in a manner to match the original brick and stone materials. The applicants have also discussed possibly changing the material from metal to wood, if the commission thinks that would make a difference.
Okay, thank you. Is there somebody here tonight from the?
Yes, we have Tammy Forrest and Jessica Bartow.
Yeah, and we actually have P. Elizabeth Kolker representing Central Community House with us as well. So I'm going to let her speak.
Okay, why don't we sweep you all in though, so that way if you want to say something, you can say something.
That's great. Thanks.
Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission tonight? Raise your hand to say I do, and say your name and your association with the project.
I do. Tammy Forrest, Central Community House Executive Director.
Thank you.
I do. Kelker, Architect of Record.
Okay. And one more, is that correct? Did you have 3
I think
people?
we're okay. Just the 2 of us are okay. We're good.
Just the 2 of you? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Would you like to add something more?
Sure. And Tamara, if you want to say anything ahead of me, let me know here. No? Okay. So this project, I think, at least some of you may know, it's been ongoing for quite some time. Central Community House provides a lot of very much needed social services support in the area, and has made a lot of investments in the house over the past, it's been actually 10 years that we've been working on renovating it. And I know that they're getting ready also to continue to improve the property with by additional painting and exterior maintenance. So I do feel like they're, generally speaking, being good stewards of the property. The property has been converted now into a mixed use property. It was donated to Central Community House almost 100 years ago, I want to say, and had been being used for their main service location up until about 2006. And then they moved over to their new building on Main Street. But so it's been serving as a commercial building, so to speak, a social services building for quite some time. Since they moved over to Main Street, it has it's actually been it's been in the process of being converted to be able to be additional expansion space for them for their programs. And one of the things about settlement houses in general historically has been that they would include an apartment for a local caretaker to be on site in the community. And so this is sort of hearkening back to that historical use or way of configuring a settlement house. So when we did the design to renovate the project for that new use to be partially occupied by a resident, their caretaker, and the rest of it to be used by, continue to be used for programs for Central Community House, we were required to add an exterior exit. The way the code reads is that an exterior exit that does not require the residential applicant to go through the commercial space is required for a mixed use situation like this. Because of the complexity and the costs, frankly, involved in creating an exterior stairwell, the building department has been working with us to come up with a solution to have an interior exit that is still part of the egress strategy for the commercial use, but also is a little bit of a separated stairwell for the resident who will be there. That will be internal and will have no bearing on the exterior building, and won't cause any kind of problems inside that wouldn't be reversible if someone wanted to return the home to a residence in the future at some point. That said, obviously this has been a labor of love for everybody involved in the Brighton project. This is the last piece in order for them to be able to make use of this property in this way. Because they've been serving as a contractor for themselves in order to save money, the project has proceeded maybe in a different order than it might have in other circumstances. But given the way they were able to contract this, the work proceeded in such a way that the doorway obviously has been installed. The apartment is there and ready. And now we are needing to make this revision. So trying to decide, what's the best thing to do right now. For the benefit of the resident, I would continue to promote that the doorway be able to remain and the balcony be able to remain for two reasons. One is from a experiential perspective for that occupant to be able to get outside, just, to get a moment of fresh air where they don't have to go through the business. But the other piece is from a safety perspective. While we are creating this semi-separated interior stairwell, it would be best practice to not have a resident have to go through the commercial part of the building to exit out. And so, as a redundant kind of safety feature for the occupant, I think it would be great if they could get out a stairwell like this if they needed to be rescued by the fire department. And it would be easier if they could be outside the residence. Also, it's already been done. So clearly, if you wanted to have the pieces removed and the window returned, it could certainly be done at some point in the future. No different than it can be done now. And if you ask for it to be done now, it's more cost, unfortunately, for Central Community House, and they're already really struggling to figure out how to get the project done and be able to use it to serve the neighborhood. So we would ask that you provide some consideration to all of those things and see if you might be able to find your way to approving what we've proposed here.
Okay, thank you. Tamara, do you want to add to that?
I could not have said it any better than P. Liz, and she's actually been involved in this project much longer than I have, and appreciated her bringing that history in, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
This is Jackie. I just want to make sure that we all have clarity because I didn't understand this at the business meeting. It's not just that the door is installed, the balcony is actually installed. Can we understand what the current condition is on the outside of the building fully? There's a door, I understand that. Is there a balcony? Is there a railing? And is there the current metal supports that go to the ground from the balcony?
Yeah, the door is there. The patio, the horizontal balcony is there. Balcony is there. The posts are there. The only thing that's not there is the guardrail.
Okay. I did not understand that at the business meeting. I thought we just had a door and a flat building face. So that is a different understanding. Thank you.
Sure.
Other commissioners, questions?
So the landing was the post, was that part of the original approval back in May of 19 that was supposed to be the staircase ultimately?
Yeah, I was supposed to have a spiral staircase connected to it. Yes, that's correct. This was built as part of that original plan.
I also thought just the door was there. I didn't realize that anything else was there. That's Connie Torbeck speaking.
And can we just want clarification? So we already approved the door technically. So the real action at hand is just the platform and the railing and the posts. And I'm sorry, just the railing. That's really all we're being asked to approve at this point, because previously approved the other components. Is that accurate, or am I misstating that?
Well, that's accurate, but you know, the stairway isn't there. That if a stairway hadn't been proposed, you know, a doorway probably would not be there. Probably would be just an egress window.
Okay.
But yeah, it does change the situation knowing that stuff is already installed.
I mean, do we have the ability to tell them to put a window back in, or the fact that we've approved the doorway, is that limited on our ability to tell them to put a window back in?
No, you could do that, yes.
Okay.
Because this is like a whole new application, really, a whole new proposal.
Even though it's now an existing condition.
Yes.
Okay.
That certainly wouldn't be our preference, but we do what we have to do.
And what year was it again? Did you say 2017 was the approval on the initial project?
It's a 2019.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It was
spiral.
Yeah.
I think it was spiral in 7.
Yeah, first it was a spiral staircase. First it was a spiral staircase, and then they came back with that wasn't going to work to get furniture and so forth up there. And then that was changed to more like a sort of a traditional sort of, you know, back and forth stairway.
It was much bigger.
2019. Was that a staff approval, or was that did that come to the committee? Okay.
It went to the committee. Yeah.
You went to us.
I'm gonna say out loud without that my guess is that if we were to compel removal of all this material and then put a window back in and ask for a window to be put back in, that we would have a very apparent change on the outside of this building. Do my commissioners who have also experience in this space, that we agree with that? My sense is that it would be very difficult to put a window back where that door was without it being very clear that that change had occurred. That we wouldn't have, you know, a really clean
I agree with that, Jackie, and I think also the addition of a railing to what we had previously approved to me doesn't feel substantial.
Yeah.
And that I don't mean this to sound as derogatory as it's going to come across, but the damage has been done. I think is, and to me, the compulsion to put a window back in, and to your point, it may not even, and it doesn't preclude a window going back in at some point in the future. It's not a lot to me that we're altering the facade that's not already been altered, I guess is where I am.
I think I do want to note, however, that for me, a major consideration in that assessment of this situation has to do with the date on the original approval of the project. If we had an initial 2019 project as opposed to 2017, I would feel and view this as an awful lot of quick shuffling around, you know, put in a door, put in a balcony, put in a stairway, don't put in a stairway, maybe just make, it would start to feel and look like we're making a lot of quick changes to a project that made a lot of changes to a facade. But at this point, we're halfway through 2020. That original project was 2017. You've had some changes in your nonprofit and in the needs of what the organization is doing with the apartment. So we're all kind of doing the best that we can here. And my inclination is to say, if the balcony was not already installed, the answer might be different, but these things are already on the building, and there's always damage done when you're demoing, as well as installing change on a historic building. And my gut reaction here is to say you might just do a little bit less damage to put a small railing around this and leave it be until you're ready to put a window back in the future. That's just my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Okay. Joe, you want to add anything?
I don't think I have anything to add that would be any different than that already said. It's a non-primary elevation. The building has had sort of a continuation of uses, you know, other than residential, while effectively serving, you know, it's been a quagmire and sort of change, obviously, since the get-go. The door's already there, depending on if the apartment stays or gets converted to some other use or codes change down the road. It's probably beneficial to just leave as is to avoid future issues coming up. I would just be fine sort of, you know, leaving the sin as is and just moving on.
And this is a little cleaner than what we had approved earlier, especially with that last sort of massive stairs going down there. Is anybody prepared to make a motion? Jackie, would you make a motion?
I can. Jackie Barton, regarding, do I have, let me pull up. I'm one page past here. 1251 Brighton Road, Central Community House, to approve retaining the modifications on the building, the door opening and balcony, and the addition of a railing, details to be approved by staff. That's all right, fellow commissioners.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Aaron Prosser, I'll second.
Great, we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Would Commissioner Barton want to just add some note as to why it's being approved in this particular case? Which you kind of already stated, just to avoid doing further damage or to the historic fabric or something like that.
Yeah. In this case, we have a previously approved project that was partially installed before the project became no longer feasible or desired by the property owner. And rather than start removing things from the building, this seemed like the least intrusive solution to a partially installed balcony. We think in the future, if the door could be put back to a window, that'd be a great solution. But at this time, that's not a desired or feasible answer, since there's an apartment use behind that door.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that okay with the second, the explanation?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, we will call the roll. Joe McCabe,
Yes.
Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Yes.
and yes, the motion carries. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Have a
enjoy
good
your evening. Okay, the next item on the agenda, agenda item number 3, 2043, 2057 Waldeck Avenue. Connie, would you take us through the application?
Sure. This is for new rear porches to remove the non-original wood decks and benches, concrete steps, and portions of original door hood overhangs, and build new rear porches per the submitted drawings. Business meeting comments on July 2nd were that there were concerns about losing original architectural features, and that the proposed porches change the character of the rear elevation. Applicable guidelines include to preserve original porches and stoops, and base any new porch construction on physical or photographic documentation of the original porch. Standards, the distinguishing characteristics of the property shall not be destroyed. Distinctive stylistic features and craftsmanship that characterize the property shall be treated with sensitivity. And so staff does not support the new rear porches as currently proposed, as the design is inconsistent with the applicable standards and guidelines. Recommend providing feedback and continuing to a future hearing to allow time for the applicant to consider alternative designs. And Daryl Allen is the representative tonight.
Okay, Daryl Allen. Okay. Do you tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? If so, say I do, and state your name and your connection with the project.
I do. Daryl Allen, owner and operator of A General Contracting and the builder for Home Team Properties.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add to the discussion?
No.
Okay. Commissioners, questions, concerns, statements? Joe, what do you think?
Oh, and by the way, those decks that are there were approved back in the 1990s, I think it was.
Kind of clarify, you said they were or they were not?
They were approved.
Got it. I mean, my feeling is probably pretty consistent with what I think was already an observation at the meeting, though. The applicant's attention to detail is pretty good here. It is a backside rear-facing scenario. I do really, hate to see the loss of the smaller overhangs that have the brackets at the rear doors. There is some architectural character there. I really wonder if the solution here is for the applicant to potentially rethink the steps and the decks still, and to come up with yet a different solution that could at least leave the overhangs in place and some of the other architectural detail. That's the extent of my commentary. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners, would you like to say anything?
I mean, I'll concur with Joe. I mean, and it's a pretty substantial change. I know it's a rear facing facade, but it's a pretty substantial change to the way it looks, and a different solution seems like a better option for me.
Okay. Jackie, you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, what I'm hearing is that we probably want to move for a continuance on this. It seems like there isn't an objection to doing something to the rear elevation, but that the current solution's probably not the solution that's going to work. That would give the applicant time to propose something a little different.
Clyde, I just wanted to bring up one additional point for the applicant. So I don't know if they addressed this or not. It seems like there's a lot of telecommunications and other wires, and I think even potentially power routed along the back of that property going to meters and stuff, is to make sure that the solution proposed would be also compliant with any building codes related to that. I don't know if it will require him to move the meters. If so, where do those go? And are there other impacts that we're not really seeing here that may be something that comes along all of a sudden further into this? But there's a lot of rewiring that has to happen from a utilities perspective, even on the back of this building. And I hope those things are thought through a little bit, because you're going to have to show where those things will be routed eventually at some point.
The preservation of the little hood porches overhangs seems to be a concern from what I'm hearing. Mr. Is that will that work for you to give you some more time to work on something?
Yeah, absolutely. Would I have any comments to give to the architect? So the things that you guys are requesting, would I have something in writing to give to the architect?
You'd certainly have the minutes of the meeting. I think the meeting's also on YouTube. Let me ask the commissioner something here. Would there be an automatic objection to the addition of some additional roofs if the little hood porches were preserved? What is the, maybe you could give them a little bit more feedback on what we see as issues.
I'll take a stab at it first, which is, I truly believe that if the overhang roofs, the doors can be preserved, and maybe a solution for adding roof to bridge between each little pop out, maybe there's a solution that could be reached there that doesn't necessarily eliminate the original framing of that roof, then just connects them all. That'd be united with some common fascia across the front, and then you can still propose raising the decks. You may even leave the stairs in place, I don't know, but then, you know, modern railing surrounding these things, it probably leaves you a little less shaded porch area, but it definitely meets maybe our objectives of leaving a lot of, you know, a high percentage of the historic material in place. That would be my suggestion.
Nicely done, Joe.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that? I think Joe kind of summed it up. So do you have a better understanding of how the commission's feeling on this?
Yes, I will get the architect back over there.
Okay. We need a motion then to continue.
So moved.
Okay, and do we have a second?
This is Aaron Prosser, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue. Any discussion on the continuance? We will call the Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Yes.
Joe McCabe,
Yes.
and Clyde. Motion's continued, and look forward to seeing your solution. Thank you for coming in. Next item on the agenda is agenda item number 4, North 4th Street. Connie, will you take us through that?
Yes, this is to build new rear first and story. We'll start over. Build new rear first and second story decks with privacy railings for submitted photos and drawings. Those both decks have been removed in the past. And also the second part would be to install new engineered wood siding and trim on the existing frame rear addition. Comments at the business meeting included that the proposal seems like a good proposal. We don't have any historic photos. We don't know exactly what was there, but something simple matching the ghosting of the floor and the posts that were there would be a good idea. So recommend approval of the application as submitted, with any required drawings or details to be submitted to staff for final approval. And that the new siding on the rear addition should match the profile and exposure of the original siding. I'm not sure that Eco Siding Premium can do that or not.
Okay, and we have William Klein, is that correct?
Yes.
This evening?
Yes.
From the project. Do you swear to tell the truth, your testimony before the commission this evening? If so, say I do. State your name and your association with the project.
I do. My name is William Klein, and I'm the managing partner of the LLC that owns the property.
Any additional information you want to add?
Yeah, I think that the siding that's there, there's just a few boards. I've looked at it pretty closely. There's a few boards that need a little bit of hold on a second, that need replaced. But I think we can save what's there and, you know, just remove the paint and prime it and paint it again. And it needs, you know, some edges on some boards on the edges to cover up that part. But other than that, we're planning to leave it pretty much the way it is.
Okay. Commissioners, questions, concerns, statements? Anybody?
No, this is what we like to see.
Make a motion then.
Jackie
Aaron, would you
Barton.
make- oh, okay.
Jackie Barton, motion to approve regarding 1424 North 4th Street, the proposal to build a new rear first and second story deck with privacy railings per submitted photos and drawings, and to install new engineered wood siding and trim on the existing frame rear addition. Connie, do we have all the details, or do I need to acknowledge that more details need to be submitted to staff?
I think we actually have all the details we need.
Great.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Joe McCabe seconded it. Any further discussion? Call the vote. Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Prosser,
Yes.
Yes.
and Clyde Henry also votes yes. So the motion carries. Thank you for coming in, and good luck with the project. It looks
All
good.
right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
let's see. Next project is agenda item number 5, 87 Brighton Road. Connie, would you take us through this?
Okay, so this is to remove the existing windows on the first and second story of the facade and to install new Marvin clad wood windows to match windows previously approved for the rest of the house. Additional photos were submitted following the July 2nd business meeting, which I sent to the commission, and we have tonight. Exterior photos show heavy layers of paint. Interior photos of the second floor facade windows do show some water and sun damage. Applicant would like to discuss the issue of fitting storm windows on the first floor windows. And as discussed at the business meeting, the other windows have already been replaced. The second story windows do show some interior deterioration and could be considered for replacement, in which case retaining only the first floor facade windows may not be reasonable. I like to try to save at least the facade windows if possible, but does it make sense to just have the first floor windows? Replacement windows that are on the third floor there, they do replicate the original window pattern well. This is the window elevate, which is called something different now, is a window that has performed well with muntins, with simulated divided light. And so if approved, replacement windows on these first and second floors must be sized to fit the existing openings and existing muntin patterns. Denial would be based on 3116.11 standards for alteration number 2, 5, and 6, which are on the staff report.
Great, thank you. And I understand Jeff Welch is here this evening?
Yes.
Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? If so, say I do, and then state your name and your association with the project.
I do. Jeff Welch Sr. With KD Yoder and Associates. I guess I'm the project manager for what we had previously done there at Mr. Silver's house.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. You know, we met. Connie and I met out there, and I understand what her point at that time was, and she gave me a couple references for Mr. Silver to talk to people to rebuild these windows so they looked like they do now, and it just didn't seem it was coming together very well, especially with the center mullion, which is a little different in that it is too far to be able to put a serviceable storm window on there, which we do also, even if the windows were worth putting a storm window over when they were done. So his feeling, and he's not even in Ohio right now due to the epidemic or whatever you want to call it, pandemic. But his feeling is that he would spend a lot of money and still not get something as energy efficient and serviceable. And he kind of feels these will look really nice and pretty close to original, like the rest of them have. We do a full tear out. So the interior trim is, well, we take it apart, but we put it back on. And the same exterior trim is used unless it's bad, and we put new up. So these pictures that you see right now, he's yet to paint. So his whole house is going to have black windows, whether he has to keep the old ones, they're going to be painted black. And all this trim, we had to replace some trim on the top of the windows in the picture now. That'll be painted when he goes to paint everything. He's trying to do that all at once if he could.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's one of those typical houses. There's nothing in between the brick and the plaster, and it can use any help it can get. for heating and cooling.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Just to clarify, Connie, the second story windows you think are more deteriorated than the first floor, is that, and that if we replace only the second story, it may look not as consistent as replacing all of the windows? Is that kind of where we are?
Yeah, it is. I mean, these windows, I mean, I don't know when they could have been open last with the way the paint and they've been caulked and painted shut for,
Sure.
you know, who knows how long.
Sure.
So,
Just wanted to get Connie's opinion.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
so, yeah, things like, you know, not being painted shut, not being able to open them, and the ropes being broken, those are not reasons to
Right.
to replace. If you keep rolling there, Jacqueline, a little bit, there's some interior which just shows, you know, not major deterioration, but they haven't been maintained. There's been moisture, and keep going a little bit. And, well, I guess it's, yeah. So on the exterior, they don't look bad. On the interior, there. So I think they haven't been maintained. So there's been moisture, and there's been sunlight and just deterioration from that on the second floor. On the first floor, they're in really great shape, I think. They have been overpainted, yes, definitely on the exterior.
Sure. Thank you, Connie.
Other commissioner concerns?
So Connie, you just said on the first floor, the windows are in really great shape.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On the interior also.
I'm just gonna say that for me, that's a pretty clear answer based on the guidelines for the first floor windows. That doesn't leave us much wiggle room, regardless of what the property owner might want to do.
They've actually been, you know, they've been maintained. They've been lacquered, varnished, or whatever, and the others weren't.
I mean, that's great.
And you can, there is a photo in there somewhere of the interior.
If you could actually scroll back up or just even stop right there for a second. Am I seeing that? So I see this bar that's protruding out sort of in a 2/3, 1/3 relationship where kind of the center break point is. Is it my understanding that the upper windows on all these are a fixed panel and only the bottom window is actually operable?
Yes, yes. And whether that is original, I don't know, because it kind of protrudes out pretty far to where
it's actually kind of a really thought out detail. So then only the real portion that would have even had a screen originally for a lot of the windows in this. I'm very familiar with Brighton road builds. So in this scenario, you would have probably only had originally even a screen, or even if there was a wood storm on the window, it would have been only for the lower portion of the window, not
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I do sort of understand that, you know, quite often when the lower first floor windows are in good condition, it's only big by virtue of the fact that the porches sort of had an overhang that saved them from direct exposure to the elements. However, having lived on that stretch, these were almost all the same builder, almost all within 2 to 3 years of each other. What I've sort of, you know, I've gone back to some other houses on Brighton Road. I know a lot of residents who still live there. Is they're all sort of coming of a certain age where these windows seem to be giving out all at once, and everybody seems to be sort of having the same sort of issue where the interiors are great on them still, but they're starting to really get weak and soft at the joints. I think it's what Connie also said, you know, you're getting a lot of moisture shed at the bottom of the window on the interior, which is causing additional damage. But we also sort of, you know, the way we live in these homes has sort of changed. We have central air and central heat at a much different level than most of these homes ever had when they were steam and probably coal-fired boilers and a lot less temperatures, and air wasn't as dried out as it is today. And it's just a different standard of living. You know, most people on a lot of these homes are not putting, you know, heavy curtains over the windows like they would have even, you know, back in the day to save every ounce of heat from escaping out of the house. So just weighing the fact that we've already got, you know, most of the windows replaced on this home, knowing some of the problems that seem to be inherent with these windows now in this district as a whole. They're all about the same age. I don't think you can fairly judge these windows maybe like you can a German Village or Victorian Village, because they're all 20-year increments apart from each other, maybe in age. And these are all 1910, 1910 sorts of homes, especially when we're looking at, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those things that, you know, the homes in the first floor windows, those may be the most salvageable, but the second story I could see the applicant having a problem with not too far down the road, even in a rebuilt condition. And then just simply not maintaining them again in the sort of same cyclical pattern where it just continues. So I would be amenable to seeing the second floor windows replaced, knowing that there's other issues. It's not protected by a porch. And we live in these houses very differently than we did. You know, the third floor windows are replaced and now it's already looking piecemeal. I don't know, I'm sort of torn on what way to go here. There are problems with interior storms if you go the interior storm route.
Yeah.
Because then you're actually capturing, you know, the air at a different point of the window. You know, I know National Parks has actually given advice on other projects to not use interior storms sometimes. That's been a dialogue on a per project basis, because they feel that sometimes you can catch conditions then, and you put the interior storm there, you're actually, you know, still having this issue of moisture coming in, developing between now the interior storm and the outside window that continues to rot the window. It's not favorable. There is some existing damage. I don't know how repairable that is, on especially those second windows. At this point, I'd be amenable to at least seeing an approval to replace the second floor windows and maybe consider only leaving the first floor windows. I don't know if it's really worthwhile doing on the first floor, because then it just feels too spotty. You know, looking at the architecture of the home, it's not going to feel uniform.
So are you saying that you would favor the first floor also being?
Possibly. My concern on the first floor is being able to replicate the protruding break on the window. I think that if any approval was given, I think Connie would really need to see dedicated shop drawings for this project. I think the upper portions of those windows are likely fixed windows, and they need to be fixed windows, and they need to sit out with that protruding piece, which I know a window manufacturer can replicate and create. And it needs to be really true to the condition that you see on the outside of that, because I think that's a feature, that's an architectural detail on its own.
Do you think that was original?
Yeah, I do. There were a lot of scenarios of just trying to add architectural interest by playing with windows. And that upper third being fixed is, I think, is very intentional, especially because of the way the molding and the wood is cut on the outside. To me, that looks like a very intentional piece.
I mean, I can support the replacement of the windows on the second story. The first floor, I don't think I can, based on the way that we've looked at these windows in the past, and the deterioration level clearly isn't significant on the first floor. And I understand the storm issue, and I understand energy efficiency, get it, but that's not something we've typically incorporated into our decision making. And I do think the part of the inconsistency between the third floor and the second and first floors may be the trim paint as well. And I think once we get some consistency in the trim paint, that I don't think that will stand out as much as being inconsistent. I mean, I think we should preserve whenever we can preserve. And I think if the second floor windows are deteriorated, I can accept that as something that we have to live with. But if the first floor windows are not deteriorated, I can't see doing that.
I want to concur. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, Erin. I didn't mean to interrupt. The awkwardness of tele-meetings. I really want to concur with what Erin said, and I actually even want to add and say I would really encourage this homeowner to embrace these first floor windows as an original architectural element of this home. that they're on Brighton Road and that they should be, you know, I'm not going to should, actually, I'm going to take back that word. I won't should all over their life, but it would be lovely, given that they are in this historic district where windows are a huge part of the historic buildings in the Brighton Road district. Just walking up and down the street here, you'll see it over and over again, as Joe has mentioned, that having this bay of original windows on the first floor could be a real cause for pride if the replacement windows are done well and echo the patterns. The outside of the house should not look awkward and strange, that it should be done, it can be done elegantly. We've seen it done again and again in historic districts where replacement windows can be done on upper floors without first floor windows looking out of place and odd. And in fact, historic homes are often designed with different window light patterns on first floor porch windows. We've seen it, right? And that's actually a design element sometimes. So I think that this can be, I'm not suggesting you change the design, the light pattern, but I'm just saying, I think we can relax into the fact that replacement windows on the upper floor should be able to be designed in a way that can work with the original windows being preserved and adhering to the guidelines. And that this property owner could really embrace the fact that they have well-preserved original fabric facing the street on the first floor of their home in a long-standing historic district here in Columbus. And that's a really great thing.
This is probably most appropriate to be put into part A and a part B, because it seems like there's different feelings about the second floor and the first floor. So would somebody want to maybe start with a motion on regarding the second floor?
I'm not always best at the motions, but I can show. So motion to approve. This is HR 2007-013, 14. I'm sorry, HR 2007-14, 1687 Brighton Road. The approval of the replacement of the second as proposed by the applicant. Connie, are there additional need relative to the application?
They will just need to submit another window quote, which will be similar to the ones that were on the third floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Make that part A. Make that part A or motion.
The motion. Approve placement of the second floor windows with final approval of staff.
Okay, let's on that.
Jackie Barton.
Should we have a second? Any other discussion on the motion to replace the windows on the second floor? If not, we will take a vote on it. Aaron Prosser?
Yes.
Jackie Barton?
Yes.
Joe McCabe?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And Clyde Henry? The second part, we need a motion. We need a motion on that also, or I guess the other possibility is to continue that, but it looks like we probably need a motion. Aaron, you want to try and take a stab at that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not a reason the applicant could always come back in the future should there be additional deterioration that would constitute replacement. And that doesn't preclude them from doing that. I will make a motion to approve section B of the application on 1687 Brighton Road for the replacement of the windows on the first floor of the house.
Have a second on that. Somebody second it?
Jackie Barton, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? If not,
Just to clarify, that was a motion for the replacement of the windows?
Yes, because it has to be in the, it has to be in the affirmative.
Yes. Joe McCabe,
Yes.
Aaron,
No.
Jackie.
No.
I'm going to vote yes on this. So we get a tie. So what's going to happen? Parliamentarian?
Motion-
I
The
vote.
the motion fails with a tie.
Okay. Okay, motion failed. Is there anything else? If not, we will move on. Thank you for coming in. I know it's not quite what you were thinking, but good luck with your project.
So tie means no, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
You're,
All right.
feeling is that there's a lot of historical fabric there in the first floor. I certainly understand the argument for consistency and eventual deterioration, but at this point, I think you need to do your best to retain that fabric and to really make it work. And it's a beautiful home. It's a beautiful home. I think it's going to work well for you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda 6, 529 and 539 East Town Street. Connie, will you take us through that, please?
Yes, so this proposal has changed since the business meeting. Mr. Loving can confirm what I put in the first line, but I believe he wants to is proposing to retain the existing 36-inch high wrought iron fence along the front and sides of the front yard at 529 East Town Street and install 3 new 6-foot-high sections of wrought iron fence with gates for the submitted plan, one between 525 and 529, one between 529 and 539, one between 539 and 545. All new fences with gates to be set back from 10 to 16 feet back from the facades of the 4 buildings based on the site plans. The fence and gate designed to match the existing wrought iron fence at 529. And he has received, we don't have written yet, but the owners of those, the adjacent houses that Mr. Loving does not own, were agreeable to having the fence terminating at their corners of the building. Actually, proposals for 6-foot-high wood fences are staff approvable if they are just set about 6 feet back from the facades or behind the first window. So this meets that standard and would be more open than a board-on-board fence. Staff would support the modified proposal to install these sections of fence with gates. And the original site plan there shows where another gate would go along the alley, along Walnut Street between the 2 carriage houses. That would stay the same. So this is showing the original site plan. The only thing that would stay the same is the gate on the back. And then the next site plan would show the proposal, the current proposal.
Okay. And I believe Matthew Loving is here this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Matthew
and Annette, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? If so, please raise your hand and each of you state your name and your association with the project.
Matthew Loving, owner.
I'm not loving.
Okay, and you also have to say I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory. And I think that if you read the letter, the thrust of why we're doing this is at present, Children's Hospital is waiting for us to give them dates where they can come and look at the 539 East Town Street Cross property. And we're going to be using it for families, as the letter said, for children that are being treated for cancer over at Children's. And the whole aim of this is to create a nice, safe environment for the kids in the parking lot and so forth. We wanted to, around the whole front was what we wanted, because if you were here the night that the protesters / rioters came down Town Street, you would have maybe given more consideration to our proposal to have the fencing up front. And then just a half a block from here, the motorist building was burned down when all that rioting was going on. So it's a move to create a safe environment, but also we're willing to spend the money to replicate the style, to make it, match up and be conducive to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Connie, you said that the current proposal with the setback meets staff approval guidelines?
That far. So we probably would have, even if this had been the original proposal, we probably still would have brought it to the commission because it's different than wood. But yes, if someone is proposing a wood fence to enclose their rear yard, it cannot come up to the facade of the house, but it can come up to within about 5 or 6 feet of the house or behind the first window along the side of each elevation.
Okay.
So these will be farther back than that.
So, I mean, that sounds fine.
Yeah. Any other commissioners have comments? I would agree with that, I think the wrought iron looks nicer than wood. And if it meets the criteria for wood, it would certainly, I think, meet it for a good supporter for the wrought iron. Any further discussion? If not, do I hear?
I do have a quick question. So the smaller fence, there's an existing fence, correct, at 529 East Town?
Yes.
So that would get removed, or would it just be left in place and this new fence is just put back and left?
There's about there's 2 ways we could do it. We could leave it, or where it goes across, where jets across from one building to the next. I think there may be 10 feet of maybe 2 seconds of the 36-inch fencing that could be removed, which would give it a cleaner look, which is what I would prefer to do.
Yeah, the low fencing at 529 just looks so much better, given how it sort of frames out. Keeping in mind these are directly across, a rather historic Columbus home, and there's 2 houses across the street that have the lower fences. But I guess that Connie, that low fence at 529, that has no historic merit. I believe that's a modern fence.
I think it is, yes, but I think it should be left as it is, actually.
But if it's okay.
I don't think any additional, any of it should be replaced with a 6-foot fence, is what I'm saying.
Right, right. I mean, in my mind, if the applicant is not changing anything from the front face of the building forward, and maybe even leaving in, some of this other detailing, the landscaping is not changing, I have no problem with this. But I just want a clarification on the 529 fence, only because I would hate to see that removed if there's any original fabric to the 529 fence.
So you want what the fencing that's running, it'd be fencing running, the fence that's running north and south, that's parallel with the sides of the building, halfway behind the building, where there's a couple of sections that could be removed where, the 36 tees in to the 6 foot and just makes it a clean look. We're not talking about removing very much fencing. That's okay.
I'm not real clear on that. If the commission would be comfortable with looking at that closer and then, approving it with the caveat that I look at that section a little bit closer.
Yeah, I would be okay with the city staff being allowed, having a condition on the motion that city staff review the final placement and plan of the fencing.
Okay.
Well, what we could do is we could just go ahead and put the new fencing up and let you come out and see it. And then if it's okay to remove the rest for that spot, because you'll see that like the last section of the date, the section next to 529, the last skin is rotted off and not even connected with the cement. So however you want to proceed. So what you're saying, as long as it's behind that first window, which is 5 or 6 feet, that's acceptable for the boards.
Yes, sir.
Is there-
What Connie was saying was that is the standard for staff review. You still would have had to get a certificate of appropriateness, but there's a more stringent review process if you move the fence up beyond that point. So by sitting it where you have, it's an easier process for you tonight.
Okay.
Correct. And Connie was quoting the standard for wood fence before, and this is not a wood fence, but it was just simply making the comparison. So being that this is a wrought iron fence, it would have to come before the commission anyway, is my understanding.
Yes.
Further discussion? Are we ready?
Jackie Barton, make a motion to approve in the case of 529 and 539 East Town Street to install new fence and gates as proposed with staff to determine the final detail on the existing low fence in the front of 529 East Town, right? 529.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Second, Joe McCabe.
Okay, the motion's been made and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, let's vote. Aaron Prosser?
Yes.
Jackie Barton?
Yes.
Joe McCabe?
Yes.
And Clyde Henry also votes yes. And the motion carries. Thank you very much for coming in, and good luck with the project. And these are beautiful homes you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is agenda item number 7, 530 East Rich Street.
Yes, so you've seen this a few times already.
Oh, yeah.
It's in 3 parts: demolition, to propose demolition of portions of rear sections of both houses and the connector between the houses, and demolition of the concrete block addition and the 2 garages. And then also renovation of 2 historic houses. The only things that are proposed for that at this time, a new roofs from the approved roofing list, and paint colors. You had already discussed previously painted brick would be okay to be repainted. And then to construct a new rear addition. The proposed demolition has been reviewed and generally agreed upon during review of a previously proposed project. Previous comments included use a softer, less contrasting color palette to help the addition fade away behind the historic houses. The overhang should be deeper to match neighborhood buildings. The historic buildings should be at the forefront. There are concerns about the whiteness of the gables that are on the front of the addition. It has a suburban feel and should be less prominent. The new construction needs to be compatible with the neighborhood along the alley as well as along the street. And the new construction feels very suburban for this neighborhood, and the facade appears flat. That some of those things have been responded to. And so while it is staff's opinion that the height of the addition is inconsistent with 3116.12C, the applicant has responded to commissioners' previous comments. Staff recommends that the roofs of the 2 appendages on the addition, on the facade of the addition, be changed to flat or low-hipped roofs to address the issue of that the commission has said that the addition should fade back or fade away from behind the historic buildings, and that the base material should be changed to a smooth material with a less contrasting color. And I'm not sure if I understand that material exactly, but it looks like the kind of CMU that has sort of sparkly stuff on it, which doesn't seem appropriate. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. And we have some individuals representing the applicant this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Please, swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening. If so, say I do, and then state your name and your association with the project.
I do. Jamie Overschlake with Shift Capital Group.
Great, thank you. And Michael, are you?
I do. Randy Black, preservation consultant.
And is there
Mike
Michael?
Shannon. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Mike Shannon.
Great, thanks so much.
And I do. Joe Sullivan with Sullivan Bruck Architects, the architect of the project.
Okay. I didn't have you on. Okay. Anybody want to add any additional information from the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is Mike Shannon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'll be very brief. We're hopeful this evening that you would give favorable consideration to the demolition request, as Connie indicated. We also are hopeful that we have met muster for approval of a certificate of approval, subject to the normal protocol in working out the final details with staff. And one final point, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring up is that we are requesting approval of 2 minor variances that we consider to be minor. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, the variance component would require a separate vote. Those 2 variances are number 1, we have 30 units proposed and we are parking them at 1 space per unit, which is adequate, more than adequate. The parking code in effect in this area is 1.5 spaces per unit. So we technically need a variance from that requirement. And the other one is merely a request in the parking space reduction. Normally they're 9 by 18 and we're asking that they be reduced to 8.5 by 17. Those are the only variances that we are requesting. I'd be more than happy to address practical difficulty issues with respect to the variances. And if there are no questions, I could turn over the rest of the presentation to Randy Black.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, as you're, I believe, still aware, I've been the preservation consultant for this project since its inception. The Commission will recall that you've toured the site at one of your business meetings. There have been 4 conceptual reviews, and I believe that the project meets the proposed rehabilitation and the existing contributing residential structures located in the East Town Street. Established in 1982, and the new infill building are in the established guidelines and city code and general preservation standards. Proposed partial demolitions noted are in accordance with City Code Chapter 3116.14 standards for demolition, and the new residential unit construction proposed is in accordance with City Code Chapter 116.12 standards for new construction. I would also say that items A through N, I believe, are in accordance with this plan. Item L doesn't apply. It deals with multiple frontages. Final note is I believe that this is an example with coming population growth. This is an example of how a historic district and historic property can accept new infill that works if it's done in accordance with the standards. So I would recommend approval as submitted.
Anyone else from the applicants want to add anything?
This is Joe Sullivan. I'd be happy to address the couple of comments by staff if that's appropriate, or answer questions. The gable elements on the new building were there and of a relatively small scale to break the scale of that facade. I think they're appropriate given the scale of the building to break that roof line down. The important part about this elevation is not necessarily an accurate way that you would truly see this project in perspective. By locating the building behind, it will have very little impact from the street. And I think this is an appropriate way of maintaining existing historic structures and locating new construction behind that is designed of its time. The colors are, I think, appropriate given the typical nature of projects. This building has a base, a middle, and a top. The base is split-faced block that has a stone face texture, which is very consistent with foundations of homes throughout Columbus in historic neighborhoods, and it's been approved in numerous other applications. And it's a medium value to also be consistent with stone foundation colors, and then a reddish brick. And the earlier representations had a lighter siding color that has gone to a much darker color, which will allow the upper portion of the building to recede relative to the historic homes on Ridge Street. And I feel the design is very appropriate for the area. It has 2-foot overhangs on the hip roof, and the hip roofs are consistent with designs in the neighborhood. And the 2-foot I believe is appropriate given the height of this building to have a more extensive overhang. The other dormer elements and the front gable are feature elements that have minimal overhang, which is very typical for elements like that in design. So I feel that it is appropriate, and I'm happy to answer any questions of the commissioner.
Is there anyone else of the applicants that wants to speak? Any of the commissioners have questions for the applicants or comments?
Joe McCabe here, familiar with the project. Just some additional final comments here, because I mean, this is obviously moving to their final approval. Focusing less maybe on the new construction. One thing we have not seen is any commitment to use a window off the approved windows list. Windows need to be addressed. Secondarily, any changes to doors and door configurations on the two historic homes. What is your intent to do any renovations there? You're obviously building a brand new building behind, but what is going to happen to the two existing homes? Secondarily, I usually have hesitance on, think much about paint colors, but I did want to bring up that it would be nice if you can introduce paint colors that are not just gray and white for the two front historic homes, and give them some individual identity as far as their paint colors go. So they then again stand out in front of this new building behind it, and just not just paint them gray, which is sort of the trendy 2020 color of the day that's going on. Let's really recognize those two front historic homes and just not make them gray. But I have no.
Actually, Joe, I think they're actually grayish.
What is that?
They're grayish. They're a mix of gray and beige.
Okay. It's what just they should have individual personalities. They're two different homes. They really shouldn't be looking like 2020 modern homes. And I actually don't have much in the way of commentary on the back building. I think you've done a good job, at least where I believe that this fits contextually. I'd be concerned with wrapping up all the details and loose ends on the two front historic houses. Everything from, what about light fixtures? I'm sure you're going to have light fixtures on the outsides of this house. Make sure you've got a light fixture package coming and being submitted, windows, doors, all those good things. But that's the extent of my comments.
Other commissioners?
So for
I would
my,
echo.
just for clarification, because the applicant has emphasized that they were hoping for an approval tonight, is the intent to, where are we in terms of spanning a desire for approval versus the lack of detail, the kinds of details that Joe has identified, which range all the way up to windows? We can.
All that could be submitted to staff, correct? Bring them back to commission if they're not.
Yeah, I would actually feel comfortable with proving the conceptual design this evening and allowing them to advance forward with demolition with a commitment to follow up in the next month or something to bring us back the window, door, lighting, any response to any color changes package. I don't think if we approve the conceptual design for the rear and the demolition, anything I just listed isn't something they could follow up with pretty timely.
Great.
I agree.
Okay. Other comments? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is Randy.
Yes.
I don't want to get in the way here. Go ahead and let me know when I can talk. It's whatever works for you.
Why don't you go ahead and then I'll call on Andy back.
Perfect. So I I don't like the gables on the back building. I just want to go on record. I want there to be some kind of public record that I don't like it. And I can live with it. I think I would echo everything Joe said. The one piece that really just, I don't think I can live with is the silly triangle over the door on the south elevation. That's, I think, supposed to mimic the gables, but it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense when it crosses the brick. I don't understand it. I would really, really love to see that particular element removed. It very much gives me that suburban, almost like, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I do not like that element. I think it should come off. I think it would do a world of good from the street presence. I agree with you that I don't know you're going to see gables as prominently as we think, but that angle gives it a very suburban nod. And I think that would go a load of distance to get rid of that from a design standpoint.
Thank you. Randy, you wanted to say something?
I'm gonna, if I can turn this off in a minute.
I'll just say while we're waiting for him too, that the variances are not on the agenda, so those could not be voted on tonight. No recommendation could be made for those tonight.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Randy, okay, well, we'll wait.
Oh, there we go.
Minimal acceptable. You know, and agree. Look a little silly. But the, you know, not as delightful as the original design was, but it's probably acceptable. Randy, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was thinking of it sounds like this is maybe not going to go that way, and that's fine. But I was thinking conditional approval is something that's happened over the years with an assignment of subcommittee to work with Connie in this case for finished drawings. If there's more than that to it, then that may not be practicable. But that's what I was thinking about.
Okay, thank you.
I don't feel comfortable with that just because of it's more difficult to communicate at this point. We're doing everything virtually. Nobody could look at anything, you know, as a group or anything like that. So this is a big project. So I think it should go to the whole commission.
Okay. Basically, my understanding is where we're at tonight is to approve the conceptual and the demolition. We cannot act on the because they're not on the agenda. So I guess,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, please? I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah. Connie, I thought thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Shannon. Mike Shannon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Connie, I thought we had submitted the variances in tandem with our application to the Downtown Commission, and that they would therefore be on your agenda. Am I mistaken in that regard? I thought you had received them and acknowledged them.
No, I received the application I received. Downtown receives the application I received. So there were no variances forwarded to me. I got updated drawings, but not variances.
So
Okay,
Connie,
and I did
have to submit a variance request to each department. They do one to the HRC and they also do one to the Downtown Commission.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have not seen the variances.
okay, so it looks like that puts us
okay.
On what's on the agenda to approve the demolition and the conceptual.
Can we just address with the applicant briefly? Are you all feeling that you would be uncomfortable moving forward with demolition until you receive an approval on the variance? Mr. Shannon?
No, I'm comfortable getting as much approved as possible this evening. Thank you for asking.
Okay.
I think the variances are de minimis. I'll take responsibility that Connie didn't receive them in a timely manner. If I have to come back next month, as I currently do, I will do so. And I apologize for the inconvenience, but we would like to go forward with a conceptual approval if you deem it appropriate, and certainly would like the demolition approved. I don't think there's been any debate that we haven't addressed in that regard.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
This is Joe Sullivan again. Just to get some guidance on the roof element at the entry, if that was determined to be more of a shed roof element, some element of cover that had a different shape, is that maybe a more appropriate direction? I just wanted a little more clarification because I think it's valuable to have some element of cover over that entry point since that is the main building entry. I mean, we could do something with brackets.
Joe, yeah, Joe, I'm not opposed to something. Joe, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As the one who made that, I'm not opposed at all to there being some kind of cover over that. I don't think the appropriate solution in it.
You don't like the shape of what's there, but you would entertain a different shape. Thank you.
I think looking at the main buildings and kind of like, I think that is going to have a much more impact on how we from the ground than obviously even think the vehicles. So I think a lot more care and treatment on that would be helpful.
Okay.
But I'm not opposed to it.
Just a simple, maybe something, just a simple flat roof, little, portico out there.
Yes.
Maybe extending the whole width of the door and the side lights. So it's simple, rather than kind of.
I think that's a valid comment.
Yeah. Any further discussion, or are we ready to move this into a motion?
Jackie Barton making a motion to approve 530 East Ridge Street conceptual approval of the project design. And do you want to bundle the demolition with this, Clyde?
Let's go ahead, because I think approve the design or demolition to occur, because we need to know what's going to be there.
And also approve demolition of the portions of rear sections of both houses and the connector between the houses as shown in the project plan, and the demolition of the concrete block addition and 2 garages as shown in the project plan.
Okay. Do you want to address portico thing?
I think it's just let's see a revive.
The portico entry to be revised to remove the suburban triangle element, and a more appropriate entry to be added for. Is that going to come back to the commission?
No, just have it approved by staff.
For staff approval.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, so
Clyde,
it
I
looks like
actually
we're,
Clyde, I do have one comment, which is just
okay.
if it's enough of an issue that the commission doesn't feel they can approve the triangulated canopy entry area, then it is something that should come back to the commission for an approval. I don't think we should task staff with it if the commission is that bothered by the configuration, only because the applicant could propose so many variable solutions. And I just don't know how realistic it isn't. It is anything other than either a flat roof or maybe another roof. So I actually, in this case, would probably suggest that the design element, the front entry canopy piece, just simply come back to the commission with the package of everything else they need anyways.
Yes, agreed.
To amend your motion?
So amended.
Okay, this as the second?
I'm good.
Okay, so, Jackie has changed her motion that the, entry cover come back to the commission for final approval, but we are approving this conceptually. And it was okay with the, second Aaron Prosser. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we're going to move to the vote. Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Yes.
Joe McCabe,
Yes.
and Clyde Henry votes also yes. Thank you very much. And unless there's any other, this one.
There's the other part about the renovation. You didn't include that of the houses. Did you want to just make a separate motion?
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. We need to do that. Someone want to make a motion? I guess we make this part B then on the renovation of the houses.
Motion to approve Part B of 530 East Ridge Street, renovation of 2 historic houses.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'm sorry.
I thought that was being continued.
Oh, is that being continued?
What was your intent, Joe?
Yeah, I would rather see a continuance because, if we're going to approve the demolition, then the renovation still can just come forward. And that can be just a complete package with, the windows, the lights, everything is a whole package then. That way it's piecemeal.
Okay, that sounds better.
My intent would not hold up the demolition.
Okay,
Sure.
Aaron, do you want to withdraw?
Yes, I'll continue Part B of 30 East Ridge Street, renovation of 2 historic houses.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second on that?
Jackie Barton, second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the continuance on the renovation of the 2 homes? Here, we're going to vote. Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Yes.
Joe McCabe,
Yes.
and Clyde Henry votes yes on that also. Okay, thank you very much for bringing that up. So we got that correct. Is there anything else on this item? Everybody good? Okay, thank you. And
Thanks very much.
good luck on the project. And we are at our final item for this evening. 201 217 South 17th Avenue. Connie, will you take us through this?
Okay, so this is for new windows to remove all the existing aluminum casement windows, a total of 36 on the circa 1955 apartment building, and to install new pellet impervia fiberglass windows. That's a change in it was going to be elevate. Well, I guess I didn't change it on the agenda, but he wants to change it to impervia, which is also a fiberglass window. And so additional photos were submitted since the business meeting, which I forwarded to the commission, and which we have tonight also. And so this is very similar to the first application, which I talked about, aluminum windows. I think the windows in this building are in worse shape than the South Champion Avenue application. The commission can decide what they think. I also provided all of the same information to this applicant that I did to the applicant on South Champion Avenue, and information about the window repair company. So he can let you know if he was able to talk to them and talk to you about the condition of these windows. And also, these are not Jalousie or Chicago or anything too unusual. They're casement windows, fixed encasement.
Thank you. And I believe someone from the applicant, Mr.
Yes.
Robert, are you here?
Yes, that's me. Yes,
do you
sir.
swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening? If so, say I do, and then state your name.
I do, Austin Rutherford, and I'm the owner.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Connie mentioned, I reached out to the individual. I called them, emailed them, and messaged them on Instagram, and have yet to receive any response from them. So I don't have any additional information on that side of things. But it's a building. We're renovating it. It's 36 total windows. We are asking to replace all of them, not a couple here and there, but we're asking to replace the entire thing. Due to the deterioration of the windows.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Talk a little bit more about the condition of the windows.
Yeah, so a majority of the cranks on the windows that previously opened the windows are not there, and when they spin, nothing happens. I think there were 7 pieces of glass that were broken. A couple of the locks on the windows, when they close, you lock it in. I think on that picture, actually right there on the left, if you guys can see the screen, similar to that, there's nothing there to lock the window. There was a couple pieces, so I don't know what they call them, but the windows were like split in half with dividers. There's 3 or 4 windows that have been replaced without the dividers, so they don't match the other windows. And then if you look at all the caulking and everything, you can see that all the caulking surround, not all, a lot of it is missing. There's water coming through them because of that. So, there's just a lot of variables with these windows.
On the one picture on the outside of the building, there was like black sort of coloring underneath the window sill running down on the outside of the building. Do you have a sense of what was going on there?
My guess would be water leaking through the windows and then color coming off the windows, but I do not know that 100%. But you're talking about on the top of the concrete sill. My
Right.
assumption.
It was
Yeah.
coming off the sill, and even the brick seemed to be taking on some discoloration.
Yeah. Again, I'm not professional in these windows, but my understanding would be that it's from water coming through it. Right there, you can see the entire thing's almost black. And a lot of these have already been retrofitted for window AC units. So again, there's been a lot of changes to these windows that are not original anymore. And the windows we were replacing them with, we're keeping all of the I don't know what they're called, but all of the squares and everything. So they're going to be placed as like as possible, replaced as like as possible to what's there.
Okay.
I'm just going to say a similar color. A similar color to this is also available in the impervious.
Yep. I would like to do black, but we can do a silver grayish to match this.
I would be amenable to approving a similar color in the case of only because of the condition, just to be clear. We have other people come because they don't like the metal windows, but I think in the case of all the photos you've submitted, it's been really helpful to see that these are just in pretty bad shape. I'm sorry, that's all I have to say.
And I would agree that the similar color is preferable.
That's the color that we can.
Yeah, I'm comfortable as long as from the exterior it means appearing the same. I'm comfortable with replacement in this case.
Cool.
Okay. Any other comments, or are we ready to make a motion? Someone want to make a?
Sure. In the case of 201 to 217 South 17th Street, move to approve as presented by the applicant with one amenable change that the applicant will consider the window color being gray, as discussed, or silver, as discussed this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Jackie Barton, second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, we're moving to the vote. Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Yes.
and Clyde Henry also votes yes. The motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. And that concludes our items on for applications. I don't see any old business. I don't believe there's any new business. Someone willing to make a
Make a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Joe McCabe made the second on that. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, or I'm sorry, do the roll call vote. We're moving to the vote. Jackie Barton,
Yes.
Aaron Prosser,
Sir.
Joe McCabe,
Yes.
and Clyde Henry also votes yes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.
See you guys.
See y'all. Bye.